Okay, continuing on here, part 6 of Anti-Citizen.
Going to have any validity to them at all, then the least we should expect is for them to be contemporary with the actual events as they transpired. Sadly, this is not at all the case. For example, consider the Gospel of Mark, which scholars generally agree is the earliest official record of the Christ narrative. No one actually knows exactly when this document first appeared, but there is at least a general consensus among scholars that it could not have been recorded any earlier than 30 years after the death of Christ. That means
Anti-Citizen. In ancient history, 30 years is nothing. Again, a crazy high skeptical view is applied to the New Testament that you would not apply anywhere else. Tacitus, Suetonius are writing of a lot of events way later than when they occurred. They're writing of the Roman emperors that have been dead for decades. Okay? So, again, 30 years is nothing for a culture, for an oral culture in a community. Mark is still writing, and the traditions for sure that he got, Mark is writing when the first generation, some of the first generation is still alive. Okay? So, again,
multiple decades of raw, unrestricted word-of-mouth compilations before we even get our very first official gospel. And that's our app.
And that's, what about Paul? Again, we're just going to ignore Paul. Paul is writing in the 50s, okay? He's writing in the 50s, so you got to consider that in his traditions. But keep moving on here.
Absolute best case available, because the other three gospels were all definitely written even more.
The Gospel of Matthew goes to 100? I have a question, Anti-Citizen. How is Clement writing? See, this is what I mean, these hyper-skeptical views of the Gospels. I heard Beneloid, I think, say this, or TBS. How Clement is writing in 96. Clement. Okay? He's writing in 96, and he's quoting the Gospel of Matthew, stuff in the Gospel of Matthew. So the Gospel of Matthew being quoted, but anyway.
Decades after that, compound this with the obvious political and social bias inherent to any religiously motivated allegation.
Okay. Anti-Citizen, every historian has a bias. Every single one does. Okay, so yes, it's true. The Christians were biased to the Christian view. That's how they saw it. Okay, so so you can't claim anybody's unbiased.
Not to mention the superstitious, illiterate culture from which it grew, and it becomes
superstitious, illiterate culture. I know if only they could have video cameras and had video cameras on Jesus and had video cam him walking on water, then we would know, wouldn't we, Anti-Citizen? Wouldn't we know that Jesus? Well, people would accept it then, right? If we had a video cam on Jesus when he fed the 5,000, if we had a video cam on the tomb when it rolled away, that would prove to you, right, and to other skeptical atheists that Jesus really was the Son of God, wouldn't it? If we had a video, if we had hundreds of people watching this, it would prove to you, wouldn't it? All these eyewitnesses, all these, no, it wouldn't. Look at today. Okay? Sandy Hook. What percentage of Americans believe that that's a staged event? We have all modern equipment. What about 9/11? Does everybody believe that Al-Qaeda is the one behind that and all that? How about the Apollo moon landings? 1/4 of the American population believe the Apollo moon landings were staged. There's a little thing called special effects, yeah. I'm sure if we had a video cam on Jesus walking on water, no atheist would ever say that's a magic trick like some magician or something. No, Chris Angel. No, they wouldn't say that. They would believe. Yeah, they would. I'm sure they would, right, Anti-Citizen? What you got to realize is when people don't want to believe something, they'll find a way to get around it. They'll simply say something, Obama's birth certificate, right? We're dealing with Trump and how he tried to deny that for a while, and then we have a document, and then we find out this newspaper with Obama being born in Hawaii, and do the people believe now? No. So anyway, I'm just saying they were stupid and illiterate. They're not like us today. Well informed is bogus. Today, modern people are just as stupid and ill informed as the ancients. Okay, so and I think the internet, most of the things on the internet are jokes. You have to admit that. Okay, so much misinformation out there. Too much information that has a lot of lies in it is bad. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, let's keep going on here.
Psychologically inevitable that legendary elements would corrupt the narrative beyond repair. At this point, the case for the historical resurrection of Jesus is already decisively settled beyond any rational dispute. Yet Christians are amazing when it comes to cramming as much failure into a single argument as they possibly can.
The only thing that's amazing is your whole historical reconstruction here that you're trying to do. It's filled with errors, straw men. What we know with high historical probability, Jesus was crucified. He was buried by Joseph of Arimathea. And women went to the tomb on that Sunday and found it empty. And then shortly after that, many of the disciples, even hundreds, is what Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 15, saw him alive from the dead, that they describe as a resurrection. And in the mind of a Jew, a first century Jew, resurrection meant physical body. The physical body came back to life. I want to show you a book here. Anti-Citizen. This is a book by Gert Ludemann. He's an atheist. He acknowledges that hundreds of people saw Jesus alive. Now, he doesn't concede the empty tomb, but a lot of other liberal scholars do. Burmese and Flusser and others that I've read that are not Christians, they're not conservative Christians, and other liberal scholars that would be fine if the empty tomb wasn't there. They concede the empty tomb is probably a historical fact, because you would never have women going to the empty tomb. You wouldn't have that. Okay, so those events occurred. Now, Bart Ehrman will say, well, there's any other possible explanation is more likely than a miracle. Okay, well here comes philosophy, right? Your philosophy. Miracles can't happen. They just can't happen, which I, of course, disagree with. I believe in the miraculous. I've seen it in my own life in the supernatural, but that's a whole nother discussion. But those are high historical probabilities. Jesus was crucified. He was buried by Joseph of Arimathea. The tomb was found empty by women on that Sunday, and then the disciples had experienced, hundreds of them had experiences of Jesus that they describe, and they say he's alive from the dead, that they describe as a resurrection. Okay, not simply an exaltation. But anyway, we'll continue on here in our next video.